Hi, my name's Andrew Dudley and this is Earth Live, a webcast featuring interviews with the people working on the front lines of conservation. Today we're pleased to be speaking with Andrea Costa from Los Angeles. How are you doing?
Very nice, very nice. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. So can you tell us what you do at Earthleague International, please?
Sure. EarthLink International is, you can consider EarthLink International as the first intelligence agency for Earth. We are focused on environmental crime. We fight environmental crime through undercover operations, research, investigation, analysis. We penetrate, infiltrate trafficking networks and transnational organized crime groups around the world, all trafficking wildlife, and we try to collect as much evidence as possible that later on can be shared either with the public or with law enforcement agencies.
So for the last few years, you've been focused on trying to prevent the extinction of the tiny vaquita, which is apparently the smallest whale in the world. How did that come about?
Yes, one of our projects, one of our main projects in the past year was that so illegal fishing in Baja California and the possible extinction of the vaquita, which is the rarest marine mammals in the world. I've been following this issue for a few years. Actually, I never had the resources to launch a proper intelligence gathering operation until a few years ago, when I finally found enough funding. The problem was that they've been trying to save the vaquita. So the vaquita is this small porpoise, small marine mammal, like kind of a dolphin, so to make it easier. And the vaquita is a bycatch. So it gets entrapped into illegal gill nets that are used to fish another fish. It's like a fish called totoaba. For the Chinese market. So it's a complicated story because the swim bladder of this fish, totoaba, is a delicatessen. In China, it is sold for up to $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a kilo. So of course, this attracted the attention of organized crime, narco traffickers, Chinese mafia, and the result is that they have been putting hundreds of thousands of gill nets in the Sea of Cortez for the past years, trying to catch totoaba, but in doing that, they're actually killing everything else, all marine life, including the vaquita. So we're not just talking about the vaquita, we're talking about whales and sharks and turtles and birds, all killed by these illegal gill nets. Unfortunately, the vaquita 10 years ago, there were already there were just 500 vaquita left in the wild. So the population was already low. And this crazy, almost gold rush to catch this fish and to make a lot of money, actually was the final nail in the coffin of the vaquita.
And so what motivated you guys to get involved and to start this undercover work that you were featuring in the documentary?
Because we noticed something that we actually noticed around the world on other issues, and we noticed that the efforts were focused especially on the fishermen, so on poaching and anti-poaching activities. And actually, almost nobody was looking at the rest of the supply chain of totoaba, so at the traffickers, who were the most important players along the supply chain. In other words, if I can use, for example, narco trafficking as an example, is like focusing only on the people who sell, dope here in the park in Los Angeles, and not the big narco traffickers. And with the vaquita for 10 years, they did this mistake, in my opinion. They focused efforts and money and everything only on the illegal fishermen and the fishing cooperatives, and they completely forgot the traffickers, the kingpins, who are the real drivers, the real enablers. So we thought, okay, let's start an operation, let's launch an operation, and let's focus exclusively on these people. Let's try to find the most important players in the supply chain and then help law enforcement to take them out.
So when you got on the ground in Mexico, how easy was it to get people talking, and what was the reaction from the local police and the prosecutors to you being there?
Mexico is, as you know, is a very, very tricky country, very corrupt. You never know if you're talking with an honest person or not, especially among law enforcement. Our way of working is very similar to an intelligence agency. We build network of sources and informants who basically collect information for us 24/7, and we also use undercover teams of investigators coming from Asia, so from Hong Kong, from Taiwan, from Vietnam, and they pretend to be traffickers themselves. They pretend to be bad guys themselves. So they are those who engage directly the most important players once we identify them, and try to extract as much intelligence as possible that later on will be put in a confidential report for law enforcement. So our aim was always A, to understand who are the most important players, and B, how they do what they do, so their modus operandi. And it took us 2 years, more or less, but at the end, we managed to have a complete picture of the most important players. Most of them are Chinese traders living in Mexico. So we started to collect a lot of information about these people. And that is why, this is one of the reasons finally last month, Mexican authorities managed to conduct a series of arrests in Mexico using our information. And this is the only way you can disrupt the supply chain all the way to the Sea of Cortez, when you take out the most important players, in other words, when you apply pressure on the right pressure points.
For that international cooperation, because you ended up in China, didn't you, after the documentary? Now, did you have much support from the likes of Interpol?
No. We actually usually work directly with the law enforcement agencies in the country, or international law enforcement agency, but not really Interpol. So we share our confidential reports with Mexican authorities, American authorities, and Chinese authorities, because they are the ones who can actually act if they want, of course. Mm-hmm. We share confidential information also with Chinese authorities, and we believe actually that they use our information already almost 2 years ago, when they did a big bust in China, arresting a lot of people trafficking totoaba and other illegal seafood, not just totoaba. We share a lot of information with at least 4 or 5 different U.S. law enforcement agencies, and we have been sharing information also with Mexican authorities, including the Ministry of the Environment, the Federal Police, and Profepa. And we are very pleased to see that finally last month they took action and they arrested some of the most important players in Mexico.
Yeah, that's great news indeed. So congratulations to you and your team. In the documentary, you got caught up in a very tense standoff between the fishermen and police with the Navy. The locals were demanding the release of those guys that had just been arrested. Did they walk free, or did they get arrested after the fact, once things had calmed down?
No, in that instance, in the film, they walk free. It was actually crazy because the local authorities arrested those illegal fishermen, and then the whole town of San Felipe, including women and children, came to the Navy base, basically where we were trying to protect ourselves, and they were there and they started throwing rocks and creating chaos, and until the Navy decided to release the fishermen to avoid any bloody confrontation with the locals. And this is an example of how powerful these people are locally. They can rally an entire town just to release 2 illegal fishermen. And this is again another example why you cannot really attack this problem locally in the Sea of Cortez. You have to have a different strategy, and identify the most important players along the supply chain. Some of them live far, far away from the sea and attack these people.
There's a very moving part of the film as well with the on the conservation side, where they're trying to rescue or capture one of the vaquitas that ended up dying. Is that the end of the conservation efforts for this little fish, or is there hope that this could be resurrected again in the future?
It was a very important attempt to temporarily remove the vaquita from the wild. So was not an attempt to simply put them in captivity forever, but was an attempt to rescue them, basically to take them out from the wild and put them in a confined space, and in the meantime try to solve this issue with poachers and traffickers. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, because it turned out that the vaquita is one of those species that really cannot take captivity, not even a few hours. But now it's so difficult to find them that I don't think they will ever try again to rescue them. So our only hope is actually to protect them in the wild, in the water.
Mm-hmm. That's really sad. So the Sea Shepherd as well, they've been working down there, making a difference, patrolling the Sea of Cortez, pulling those nets out and getting shot at. You know, how are the locals reacting to that even now? Are they still in the crosshairs?
Yeah, of course. They do a great job there. They remove nets every day, every night. Unfortunately.
That's really sad. So the Sea Shepherd as well, they've been working down there, making a difference, patrolling the Sea of Cortez, pulling those nets out and getting shot at. You know, how are the locals reacting to that even now? Are they still in the crosshairs?
Yeah, of course. They do a great job there. They remove nets every day, every night. Unfortunately, they keep putting new nets almost every day, every night. So it's a very difficult job. Of course, fishermen don't like Sea Shepherd because they destroy the nets and everything. But you cannot focus only on anti-poaching, of course. And actually, it will be. I think it's incredible to understand that, you know, American authorities, Mexican authorities, and big NGOs in a bit more than 10 years, they put more than $100 million to protect the vaquita. So it's an incredible amount of money. I don't think rhinos and elephants combined have $100 million in 10 years to protect the vaquita. And this is the results. The vaquita went from around 500-600 individuals to maybe 10. So we have collectively to acknowledge the fact that this is an epic failure of conservation, and it will go down in history as an epic failure of conservation. And this is what happens when you do not act on the right pressure points, when you don't take the time to really understand who does what and who are the most important players.
And how important are whistleblowers to your work, and what advice would you give someone that is looking to make, you know, a report to you guys?
Yeah, so one of our projects is called Wild Leaks, which is the world's first whistleblowing initiative dedicated to environmental crime. We launched it 6 years ago, and it's basically, it started with an online platform, basically built on Tor, because by operating in the field like we do in 4 continents, we realized that a lot of information is in the hands of people who will never share this information with anyone, especially locally. So you have to understand, in some countries it's dangerous to report on wildlife crime or environmental crime, even to police. So it's a lot of, you know, untapped information in the hands of people around the world, and they're not sharing with anyone. So we come up with the idea, okay, let's create a safe space online where people can share information anonymously and securely, and then we try to do what we can with this information. So the mission of Wild Leaks is to receive anonymous information about environmental crime and transform it into actionable intelligence, if possible, so into actions. So that's why we share a lot of this anonymous information, maybe with other NGOs or directly with law enforcement. Sometimes we share with the media, and 2 months, in September this year, we published our first report that you find it online. It's a very interesting report because it's not just a selection of the most interesting leaks that we received during those years, but it's an introduction to whistleblowing applied to environmental crime, which is I think an interesting subject.
Could you tell us a little bit more about your team? I believe it's comprised of former police and FBI agents.
Yes, we are an environmental organization, but our team is a bit is unique in terms of, we are not the regular environmental organization. In fact, my closest team members are former FBI, former CIA, geospatial intelligence analysts, undercover operatives, former law enforcement officers. So, because our work we work on crime. We protect animals, we protect ecosystem, we protect wild spaces, but actually our target is people. Our main target are transnational organized crime groups. So we need crime professionals to attack this problem. We also have, of course, expert in conservation and wildlife, but let's say our core mission is to fight crime. So most of our team members are professionals in that space.
So I'm curious, for anyone in law enforcement seeking a career change, what advice would you give them? I mean, can they join your organization? Are you looking for people?
Yeah, of course. We look for people with the right skills. Of course, you have to imagine, for example, my right arm, Mark Davis, a former FBI, and he worked also with the CIA. He was one of the most successful undercover agents in the history of the FBI, almost 30 years. So it's very, very special people with very, very special skills. They also have to be good human beings and have their heart in the right place. Otherwise, I cannot work with them. Mm-hmm. So they are very unique people. But yes, if you have those kind of skills, maybe we are interested in you.
And can the public make a donation to your organization?
Yeah, of course. We live only on donations. We don't get funding, from any other source. So we receive money from foundations or people that can donate online. Yes, highly appreciated.
And finally, what's next for you guys? What are you going to be focusing on next?
At the moment, we are very, very active in Latin America. We continue our operation on rhino horn trafficking from Southern Africa to Asia, but we're very active in Latin America. We started 2 years ago to work on the trafficking of jaguar parts. It's a poorly known issue, but very serious. It threatened the survival of jaguar in the wild. Basically, they poach jaguars and then they smuggle some of the parts, especially fangs and bones, to China to be sold as tiger. Actually, that's the interesting part. Is for the black market of tiger parts. And so we work a lot on jaguar trafficking. We also work a lot on shark fins trafficking from South America. There's no lack of work, unfortunately.
So just in closing, would you like to make any final remarks?
Well, yeah, I invite people whenever they want to be more involved, especially in the issue of environmental crime, which is a very serious, big issue. It's the fourth largest criminal enterprise in the world. It's worth up to $260 billion per year. No wonder very dangerous people are involved now. So it's a very complex issue and need to be approached by professional. So I always invite people to educate themselves. It's a complex issue. It's always dangerous to oversimplify complex issues, in my opinion. So and again, the real villains are not the poachers, are not the illegal fishermen. The real villains are international traffickers. We should focus on them.
Well, Mr. Costa, it's been absolutely fascinating to speak to you today, and thank you for the incredible work you and your team are doing. So take care.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
My My name's Kirsty. If you enjoyed the content today and would like to watch more videos like this, please subscribe to our social media channels or join us at www.f.live/join.